Every year, over 500,000 people go missing in the United States alone. In many cases, some clues help authorities find the missing person. But there are also cases where someone disappears without a trace. It is like they vanished into thin air. These are the cases of the people who just up and left without a trace. Most disappearances happen in isolated areas where there are no witnesses or security cameras that could help investigators. Without a clue, it's tough for investigators to figure out what happened to the missing person. But someone can disappear in a busy and crowded area. That's what happened to 19-year-old Jason Jolkowski from Benson, Omaha on June 13, 2001. In the morning, around 10:15 a.m., Jason got a call from his boss. The boss wanted him to come to work early at a restaurant. It wasn't Jason's shift, but he couldn't say no to the extra money. He told his boss he'd be coming, but he also told him that his car was at the repair shop, so he'd have to walk the 4 miles from his house to Vizzoli's, which was very busy. Jason's boss offered to arrange for one of his co-workers to pick him up instead. Jason suggested they meet in the parking lot of Benson High Magnet, the school he graduated from just 2 years ago. The school was about half a mile away from Jason's house, and the walk usually took him about 10 minutes. Jason quickly jumped into the shower and got dressed after his call with his boss. As he left the house, he noticed the trash had already been picked up that morning, so he decided to return the empty cans to the garage. This would be a help for Jason's 13-year-old brother, Michael. Around 10:45 a.m., Jason's neighbor, Chester Link, spotted him putting the trash cans and heading towards Benson High. Little did Link know he'd be the last person to see Jason Jolkowski alive. At 11:15 a.m., Jason's co-worker started to get worried because he hadn't arrived yet. So, she drove to a nearby gas station and used a payphone to call their boss and tell him about the situation. The boss told her to wait a bit longer just in case Jason showed up, but he never did. Jason's boss then called his home phone around this time to find out what was going on. But guess who picked up? Jason's brother. Jason's brother told him that the last time he saw Jason was heading to work. That's when they realized Jason was missing. Jason's parents were called at work and told about his disappearance shortly after. The police were immediately notified, but since Jason was a teenager and it wasn't uncommon for teenagers to run away, they didn't start their official investigation until over a week later. While they wouldn't look into Jason's disappearance for a while, his neighborhood was on high alert when they heard the news. This makes it unlikely that someone could have come back and hidden evidence or done anything that would stop the police from looking into the case. They would have been noticed when the police started looking into the case, but they didn't find anything notable that wasn't already known in the following weeks. Jason's sudden disappearance left everyone puzzled. The police launched a massive search effort, using helicopters and infrared technology to try and find him. They interviewed hundreds of people and checked every house in the immediate area. They even went through Jason's personal life, questioning his friends and examining his computer. But despite all their efforts, they couldn't find a single clue. It was as if Jason had simply vanished into thin air. It seemed like he had disappeared during his short 7-block walk to Benson High. A seasoned police officer told Jason's mother, Kelly, that this was the most baffling case he had ever encountered in his entire career. It's rare to not find even a single lead after someone goes missing, especially in a busy community like Omaha, where Jason was well known by everyone. No one was ever suspected. The police, Jason's family, and friends all had questions about what happened to him, but the most obvious one was how could Jason have possibly gone missing during a trip he had made hundreds of times before? The police checked Benson High School security cameras since that was Jason's intended destination, but he never made it to the school and wasn't seen on any camera in the area, including the nearby middle school surveillance cameras. He also couldn't have been in Bedford Avenue, the main road he would have had to take to get to the school. The area was simply too crowded for anyone to have noticed him. The authorities believe he likely disappeared close to his house. The first thought was that someone in a car took him soon after he left, but why would someone randomly target Jason? His mom said he was a bit of a loner and had few friends. He was tall and strong, so it's hard to imagine someone would want to hurt him, and it's unlikely someone would just take him for a joyride, especially since he was in a residential area during the day. His mom also said he had a learning disability that made him shy, so he wouldn't have gotten into a stranger's car willingly. That means someone had to force him, which is pretty unlikely in that setting. So, it seems like he was probably picked up by someone he knew, but that's hard to believe because of his learning disability. He was pretty introverted and socially awkward, so he wouldn't have just gotten into a car with anyone. His mom said he had a few close friends, and everyone with whom he was close enough to accept a ride from had an alibi. The problem is, Jason wasn't even supposed to go to work that morning, so even if someone knew his schedule and planned to hurt him, there's no way they could have known. He'd be making a trip at that time, and the only people who knew about it were Jason's boss at Fazoli's and the coworker who was supposed to pick him up, but they were both cleared by the police as having nothing to do with the incident. Some say Jason might have taken a detour in a car with someone he knew and wasn't even on his intended path that day, which is why no evidence was found along it. But those close to him said Jason was super responsible and always on time, especially since he had someone waiting for him. They think if he did accept a ride, it would have only been to the school and nowhere else, which supports the theory that he disappeared somewhere along his usual route that day. Others speculate that there might not have been a car at all, and instead, Jason was lured into a nearby house by a neighbor, pretending to need help. After all, Jason was known for being kind and helpful in his community, and was very empathetic about others' struggles. Some believe a predator in the area might have taken advantage of his kindness to hurt him. This theory makes sense, but it's also unlikely because Jason only had 15 minutes to get to the school. If he was in a hurry and someone was waiting for him, like his coworker was, it's also very rare for a predator to be so bold as to take someone in broad daylight. The community is one of the riskiest crimes you can commit. It's highly unlikely that even a known offender would take such a risk, and no one in the area stood out to the Omaha PD as being capable of such a crime. One final theory was that he may not have been taken at all and instead disappeared by choice. A Reddit user named DJG123, who worked with Jason at a radio station that was part of his broadcasting program at Iowa Western Community College, made a post to debunk this theory. However, when asked if it was normal for someone to just vanish from this area of Benson in the morning, DJG123 replied, "Yeah, it was incredibly rare that he would just disappear. Many people think that he might have known his abductors. Jason wasn't dumb, and he wouldn't just get into a car with a stranger. But they never found any signs of a struggle in the neighborhood, and nobody heard a disturbance. So it would have to be either an instant knockout abduction, so he couldn't fight back, or he went with someone he knew, but he was very responsible and wouldn't have skipped work. He wasn't very good at giving directions, so he decided to meet his coworker at Benson High School instead. I don't think he just disappeared, though." GG123 went on to talk about how Jason was starting a new job the week following his disappearance at a company called Site Corp as a service representative, for which he was very excited. He was also passionate about his radio broadcasting career, and he had a promising future in the industry. There was just no reason for Jason to leave on his own accord, leading many in the community to fear that whatever happened to Jason was something foul. But what really did happen to Jason Jolkowski on that fateful day? There's no solid evidence or witnesses, so we're left with just wild guesses. But in a case like this, it's almost impossible to even imagine what could have happened. Some people think Jason might have been involved in something investigators didn't know about, which is why there were no leads. Others think whatever happened to Jason was so bizarre that no one could have possibly thought of it, no matter what. But the disappearance of Jason Jolkowski showed the world that even your own community can be dangerous.